Sarah gripped her camera tightly. The old house loomed before her, a dark shape against the bruised twilight sky. Blackwood Manor. Locals whispered it, their voices hushed with old fears. They said it was a place of bad dreams. Sarah was a vlogger, always chasing the next thrill, the next spooky tale for her growing audience. Her latest challenge, posted by a fan, was simple. Spend one night in Blackwood Manor and film everything. The wind sighed through the skeletal branches of the trees surrounding the estate. Crows cawed from the gnarled oaks, their calls like harsh laughter. Sarah told herself it was just an old, abandoned house. But even as she thought it, a shiver traced its way down her spine, cold and unwelcome. The challenge promised her channel a surge in views, a jump in subscribers. She adjusted the strap of her backpack, the weight a familiar comfort. The air was thick, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something faintly metallic and unsettling. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Okay, guys," she whispered to her camera, forcing a smile. "This is it. Blackwood Manor." The house itself seemed to watch her. Its windows were like vacant eyes, dark and unblinking. The rusted iron gates groaned in protest as Sarah pushed them open. The sound echoed in the unnatural stillness of the overgrown yard. Weeds choked what was once a grand driveway, their tendrils reaching out like grasping fingers. A thick mist had begun to creep in from the surrounding forest, swirling around her ankles. The crows, which had been so vocal moments before, now fell silent. She crunched over fallen leaves and broken twigs, each step sounding unnaturally loud. The forest around the manor was dense and dark. Sarah could feel the oppressive weight of the silence, broken only by her own breathing and the thumping of her heart. She kept her camera rolling, narrating her approach, her voice a little shakier than she would have liked. "The atmosphere here is intense," she admitted, panning the camera across the eerie landscape. The front door of Blackwood Manor was a massive oak structure, scarred and weathered by time and the elements. Sarah swept her flashlight beam across the foyer. A grand staircase spiraled upwards into the darkness, its banister broken in several places. To her left, a doorway led into what looked like a drawing room, its furniture draped in ghostly white sheets. To her right, another dark opening hinted at a dining hall, a long table barely visible beneath a layer of grime. Dust motes danced in the flashlight's beam, disturbed by her entry after what seemed like an eternity of stillness. The house felt ancient, steeped in forgotten memories and a palpable sense of sorrow. She decided to explore the ground floor first, her footsteps echoing unnervingly on the creaking floorboards. Each sound seemed amplified in the oppressive quiet. "Okay, so this is the main hall," she narrated for her vlog, her voice a low murmur. "Seriously creepy vibes in here." Upstairs, the air grew colder still. The landing was a shadowy expanse with several closed doors leading off into unknown rooms. Sarah chose one at random, pushing it open with a trepidation that was becoming all too familiar. The room beyond was unlike any she had encountered so far. It was filled with mirrors, dozens of them. They lined the walls, stood on ornate easels, and lay propped against dusty furniture. Mirrors of all shapes and sizes, oval, rectangular, round, some with gilded frames, others plain and stark. They reflected her flashlight beam in 1,000 dazzling, disorienting directions, making the room seem impossibly vast and confusing. Sarah stepped cautiously into the room, her reflection appearing in multiple surfaces simultaneously. Each mirror showed her a lone figure with a flashlight, her face pale and apprehensive. "Whoa!" she breathed, panning her camera around. "This is a lot of mirrors. Why would anyone need so many mirrors in one room? It felt like walking into a kaleidoscope, each turn bringing a new fractured view of herself and the dusty space. The air in the room was particularly heavy, stagnant, and there was a faint, almost imperceptible humming sound like distant, trapped energy. She felt a strange pull towards the mirrors, a morbid curiosity. She approached a large, ornate mirror in the center of the room. Its glass was surprisingly clean compared to the others, almost glowing faintly in the dim light. As she stared into it, she noticed something odd, her reflection. Shaken by the experience in the mirror room, Sarah retreated, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. She needed to get a grip. It was an old house, the light was poor, and she was already on edge. That had to be the explanation for what she thought she saw. She tried to rationalize it, to convince herself that her eyes had deceived her. But the chilling image of her reflection's independent smirk lingered, a cold knot of fear tightening in her stomach. She continued down the hallway, her flashlight beam dancing nervously ahead, trying to focus on her vlog, on documenting the house, anything but the memory of that mirrored gaze. She entered a large, empty bedroom. Moonlight filtered weakly through a grimy window, casting long, distorted shadows across the floor. The only furniture was a single, dilapidated wooden chair in the center of the room. As Sarah moved, her shadow stretched and swayed with her, a familiar, comforting presence. She took a few steps towards the window, her shadow trailing faithfully behind. Then she stopped. Her shadow, however, did not. It continued to move, detaching itself from her feet, gliding across the floorboards as if it had a will of its own. It flowed like dark water, elongating, then coalescing into a vaguely humanoid shape near the far wall. Sarah froze, her blood turning to ice. Night had fully descended upon Blackwood Manor, a thick, impenetrable darkness that swallowed the faint moonlight. Sarah had retreated to what seemed like the least threatening room she could find, a small study on the ground floor, its door wedged shut with a broken chair leg. Her flashlight was her only companion, its beam a small circle of safety in the encroaching blackness. The encounters with the independent reflection and the rogue shadow had shattered her bravado, replacing it with a gnawing, persistent fear. She was no longer a thrill-seeking vlogger. She was a prisoner in a house that defied all logic, all sanity. As the hours crawled by, the house seemed to grow more active. The subtle sounds she had noticed earlier became more pronounced. Floorboards creaked overhead, as if someone was pacing back and forth in the rooms above. Doors seemed to rattle gently in their frames, even though there was no discernible breeze. And then the whispers started. At first, they were faint, like the rustling of dry leaves just at the edge of her hearing. With trembling hands, Sarah decided to review some of the footage she had shot earlier. Perhaps seeing it on a screen would make it seem less real, or maybe, just maybe, it would show nothing, proving her mind was playing tricks. She rewound the footage to her initial entry into the house, her voice sounding artificially brave and confident in the playback. She watched herself walk through the dusty foyer, narrating her observations. It all seemed so normal, so mundane on the small screen of her camera. Maybe she had overreacted. Maybe the stress and the atmosphere had gotten to her. Then she saw it. As she watched herself pass a darkened doorway in the footage, a shape flickered in the shadows behind her. It was tall and gaunt, a vaguely human silhouette, darker than the surrounding gloom. It was there for only a fraction of a second, but it was undeniably present. Her blood ran cold. She hadn't seen it at the time. She had been completely unaware. She skipped forward, her heart pounding. In another clip, as she explored the dilapidated library, the same dark figure stood motionless in the deep shadows between two bookshelves, watching her. Again, She had felt nothing, seen nothing at the time. Frantically, Sarah scanned through more clips. The figure was there in almost every shot taken inside the house. Sometimes it was a fleeting glimpse in the background, sometimes a more defined shape lurking just at the edge of the frame, always just out of her direct line of sight when she was filming. The sight of the dark figure in her footage shattered Sarah's last vestiges of composure. The need to escape Blackwood Manor became an overwhelming, primal urge. She couldn't stay another second in this place, with its whispering walls, its rogue shadows and its silent watching entity. Grabbing her camera and backpack, she wrenched open the study door, her flashlight beam cutting a frantic path through the oppressive darkness of the foyer. The grand staircase loomed, but her focus was singular, the front door. Freedom lay just beyond it. If she could just reach it, she could escape this nightmare. She stumbled through the foyer, her breath coming in ragged gasps, the whispers seeming to mock her desperation, swirling around her like unseen tormentors. "Leaving so soon, Sarah? The fun is just beginning." Her flashlight beam shook violently as she fumbled for the doorknob, her fingers clumsy with terror. She reached the spot where the massive oak door had been, the door she had entered through what felt like a lifetime ago, but the door was gone. In its place was a solid, unbroken wall, a wall made entirely of mirror shards, jagged pieces of silvered glass fitted together like a grotesque, glittering mosaic. Sarah stared in disbelief, her mind refusing to comprehend what her eyes were seeing. Sarah sank to the floor, defeated. The mirrored wall shimmered before her, a cruel testament to her imprisonment. The whispers intensified, no longer just calling her name, but cackling, a chorus of unseen voices celebrating their victory. Her camera lay beside her, still recording, its red light a single, unwavering eye in the darkness. She picked it up, her hand trembling so violently the image shook. There was no escape. The house had claimed her, just as the local legends had warned. She was another story, another soul lost to the shadows of Blackwood Manor. With a final, desperate surge of will, she turned the camera on herself. Her face was pale, streaked with tears and dirt. Her eyes were wide with a terror that went beyond fear, a hollow understanding of her fate. If anyone sees this," she began, her voice hoarse, broken, "don't come here. Don't ever come to Blackwood Manor. It's not just a house, it's a trap. It takes you, it keeps you." Behind her, in the reflection of the camera lens, the dark figure seemed to solidify slightly. A subtle shift in the shadows, as if acknowledging her words, her surrender. "The mirrors, they don't just reflect," she continued. Her gaze fixed on the lens, a desperate plea to the unseen viewers she hoped would one day find this footage.